Right, I think we've both talked too much today, haven't we, Tony? So what we'd like you to do now is have a go at one of the exercises. This exercise is called the Four Hats. It was originally called Mission to Goals, but we thought that sounded a bit corporate, and that's not really what we're about. Can you get the flip chart out, Tony? So make a little space on your table. Yes, that one. Just get it rolled up at the moment. Maybe need to put it down. Just one on each table. Or stick it on the. I'll tell you what. Stick it on the flip chart, shall we? With some blue. Put it there. There you go.
Blue type press.
Right. This is something. What we're doing here, actually, people do MBAs about this stuff. But we can take some useful things out of it for the sector without us all having to do an MBA, thank the Lord. This sort of diagram is called a strategy map, but we've called it the Four Hats diagram. And what we're asking you to do is consider your mission, which is what you're there to do, and this is an example from a real life organisation, to provide a drug rehab counselling service. Consider your mission from 4 points of view, and these are the 4 points of view that we think are the most important for the voluntary sector. There are lots of points of view. But we know we're here to serve the client. So we ask ourselves, to achieve our mission, what are the right goals that we should be following to make sure we meet our clients' needs? Not just that we're there doing what we've always done, but we actually plan to do things which are really going to hit their needs and make sure we can meet those. So that's the blue hat. Then these people over here, unfortunately, are equally important to us, because if we don't have support or we don't have funding, we can't actually do what we want to do. And a lot of us only think about our funders' needs when we're asking them for money. And that's really the wrong time to be thinking about their needs. We've really got to have our eye on that all the time and think, right, to achieve our mission, what goals must we pursue to make sure we're meeting those funders' needs, and we are gathering the information that they need. And it's not just a nuisance that we think about afterwards, where we've got to claim the money and we think, oh my goodness, I haven't gathered that information, and that's when it becomes a real challenge. And also our stakeholders, which I've put in there as well, because the in-kind support, the moral support, the social, the political support is also very important to us. And we know that they've got boxes to tick as well. And so we've got to keep our eye on that and make sure we meet those goals. And then, of course, driving all that is what we actually do, the grey hat. And this is where sometimes we've always done things in the same way, and we all know that a good manual system is better than a bad computer system, so we don't change it. But we all know we could maybe be more efficient. Then we buy the technology, and then we find it gets in the way. And then we find we spend more time fiddling with the technology than actually doing what we're supposed to be doing, which is driving the processes. I can see some people recognise this. We all know we do it. Yeah. So we're going to take some time out and ask ourselves, if we're going to achieve that mission and meet our clients' goals and our funders' goals, what do we really need to be good at in these internal processes? Where could we smarten up our act? Where should we excel to be able to do that quickly and easily? And you'll see these little arrows here, because what we're talking about here really is cause and effect. And I think we forget that. All these things are linked together, one feeds into the other. And perhaps most importantly at the bottom is this green hat here, which says, hang on a minute, we've really got to keep our eye on what we're doing all the time. We could have put evaluation there, we could have put learning, but we thought, no, let's put reflection. Let's think about what we do from time to time and see how we might improve it, so that we make sure we keep reviewing these processes and we keep making sure we're collecting the right data and it's doing the right thing. And I was speaking to Terry over coffee about some of the things he's done in this organisation, to make sure that you're collecting the right data and doing the right things. But not everybody's got a Terry, so we have to make sure we take time out to think about that before we commission what we do. So these are cause and effects, and we could start at the bottom and think, if we set ourselves some goals here, how would that actually make us better? And how would that help us meet our funders' needs and goals better? And how would that help us meet our clients' needs and goals better? Or we could start here and say, right, if that's our mission, what do we want to do for those two important groups of stakeholders? What processes actually drive that? And hang on a minute, what do we need to do to make sure we keep them on the ball and keep getting better? So you can read this diagram from top to bottom or from bottom to top, it doesn't really matter. So that's the model we're going to ask you to play around with now when you set yourselves, consider some needs and set yourself some goals. And I think that's, well, yeah, just review it. So we've got 4 hats: the client's hat, the funders and stakeholders hat, the what goes on in the back office hat, the reflection and improvement hat. And with each hat on, thinking about our organisation and our mission, we're thinking about needs, what needs do we need to fulfil, and then we're saying what goals can we set ourselves to meet those needs. I'm going to ask you to do that now on your tables, probably.
Yep. Probably best on the table.
And we're going to do it with post-it notes, which we get through a lot of in the game. And there's one rule here about using post-it notes, and that is you must only write one thought on one sticky note. Because otherwise, if you write 3 thoughts, you end up tearing them up into little bits, because we're going to ask you to move them about, or we want you to be able to move them about.
If you're not clear what it is we're asking you to do at the moment, don't worry. Jane's going to explain that by illustrating it and then not just talking about it.
Yes, that's right. So here we are with an example here. And this is a real life example. This organisation thought about what it did using this framework, and it decided that from the client's point of view, when clients came to appointments, they really made progress. But the trouble is, because of their lifestyle, the issues they were facing, the challenges they were facing, they would often miss appointments and they wouldn't come. So they knew they had to do something about that. So they set themselves a goal around no more missed appointments. Now that's a funny sounding goal because it's negative, but what I want to show to you there is it doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be a beautifully framed goal that's absolutely perfect. This organisation knew what they meant when they said we really need to do something about missed appointments. Let's make ourselves a goal of no more missed appointments ever. That's a fine goal. How are you going to do it? It's another issue. But it doesn't matter about the language and the language being clumsy. Don't be too hung up on that. The other thing they thought was really important was that they needed up-to-date information. Because if they didn't get up-to-date information, then they weren't getting up-to-date information out to their clients, then obviously it was not going to be very valuable to the clients. Where to go for extra help, what medications they were able to get, where they could go to meet socially and get support, so on and so forth. All that had to be up to date. When they looked from their funders and stakeholders' point of view, they realised that they had to report on the fact they were using their resources that they were being given efficiently. Because unless they were making that case, they wouldn't be getting more money. So that's the goal they set themselves there, reporting the efficient use of resources. When they looked at their internal processes, the most important thing they do is run these one-to-one counselling sessions. So they needed a proper system to make sure that everybody knew when a counsellor was booked, where they were going, who they were going to see, and that they were gathering the right information in those sessions and they were recording it. So they set themselves a goal that that had to be really excellent, that system there. They also decided that they were a bit rubbish at getting the appointments booked properly. Because as somebody said earlier today, they had different people in different places, the counsellors were in different places, they were out in the field, sometimes they were double booking them, they didn't know who was seeing whom, when, where, what, why, and so they needed a better efficient appointment booking system that everybody could share, so everybody knew where everybody was and who they were seeing. And then they needed to do something about keeping their information resources up to date so that they were making sure it was accurate. From the reflection and improvement standpoint, they set themselves the goals that they were going to keep reviewing that information. You can start to see how these links come. And also, they needed to have accurate information about their clients, because if they didn't have the accurate case recording, then they weren't going to be able to report properly to the funders, they weren't going to be able to see whether the information fitted the client need, and they weren't going to be able to make sure that they knew who they saw, when, and what progress they were making.